What's up guys, TechLab here. Now we all know there's a bit of a premium when it comes to building Mini ITX gaming systems, but some manufacturers have actually got the budget gamers back, especially when it comes to cases. Now this is one of them, and it might just be one of the best Mini ITX gaming cases you can buy for under £50. So let's take a look at it. Okay, so we actually found this case in our inventory because we were actually looking for some new Mini ITX parts because we're generally going to start doing a few more mini builds. We found it in the back of the actual cupboard and we must have bought it a long time ago because we don't remember actually doing it, and looking it up online it's actually still under the £50 mark. It is a Mini ITX case from Cougar, although they actually brand it as an Ultra Compact case, and it appears to be like a version 2 because there was a previous version to this where the front and the top actually had mesh paneling, whereas this one doesn't. It's actually got just a solid paneling all the way across, but it does come with full, well, pretty much full mesh sides on the back as well as on the side that you generally open them. It also has a full length mesh panel at the bottom with a bit of a dust extractor here, so you're going to get plenty of air even with that solid piece at the front. Taking the side off the case, we can actually see that it's not too bad. It's got an inset piece of mesh on the side and it's not tiny, so it's not actually going to stop all kinds of dust, but it's going to stop quite a bit. And it is actually plastic just like the front and the side, and it's the same as the one on the back. So they're not structurally the best, but they do have metal tabbing all the way down to actually lock it onto the side of the case, so it's not that bad. Once you open up the case, you're going to be met with this. Now this is a bit more of a utility belt for the case really. It's an extra panel that they insert, and because you haven't got any windows you don't really need to be able to see through this bit, which allows you to actually store lots more things inside the case, and they haven't actually had to put anything anywhere else. On this you can actually store another 120mm fan, which will actually draw air in from the side and straight onto the CPU. And on the front you can actually store up to two 2.5-inch drives or one 3.5-inch drive. And we'll take this out and we'll show you what that actually looks like. But we will need a screwdriver because you actually have to take out a couple of screws all the way around. So we'll just grab a screwdriver. Now to remove this utility belt, all you need to do is remove the screws from this side. There's one at the bottom there, one halfway up, and then there is a single screw in the front just at the bottom. The other two you don't need to remove because they're actually for something else. The whole panel should be able to lift up, slide across, and then you can just drop it out of those there. We want to make sure that we don't lose those screws, so we'll take them out. And we can actually see the bottom of that plate. So obviously when it goes in that way, you're going to be able to fit a 120mm fan there, and you'll also be able to fit two 2.5-inch drives there, as well as a 3.5-inch in the back there. Now you can actually remove that caddy, you don't need it on there at all because it comes with a bit of an extra surprise. You can actually fit a 240mm radiator on here, but you will need to double check the power supply that you fit because you'll need some kind of clearance. But that's actually a pretty cool feature. If you're just looking at just a 120mm radiator, it will just fit on here fine and you don't have to worry too much about the PSU. So that's actually pretty cool. Or you don't need to include it at all if you don't want to, and you might be able to see some kind of lighting through the venting on the side of the panel. The other side of the case is actually removable as well. You can actually take it off with your two thumb screws, just like you do on the other side. One there, and it's pretty much exactly the same construction. You could probably fit the sides on either side, so if you do damage one, you could always swap the other, and you just drop it out like that. Removing the actual rear panel, you are faced with actually a little bit of cable management. So there's actually quite a bit of a gap there. It's about ½ an inch worth, so you can get some cables and run them through. Now generally, they don't actually include that in many cases this size, so that's a really cool feature. And the reason that they don't is because there's no actual window to be able to see anything. So as long as you can cable manage things away on the other side quite peacefully, you don't normally worry about it, but they have given it you here, and because of the extra space, they've also included an extra 2.5-inch drive mount there. So you've got plenty of space for 2.5-inch SSDs, and also a place for a 3.5-inch drive if you want to really do that. Now the case itself is actually built really sturdy. There's no flex in this at all, but it has got the top still on it. Now the top has a little bit of a hidden feature. When you look at the top, it does actually slide back and forward. Now you can lock that down, they do give you a screw to be able to lock that down, but the reason it does this is because you can still actually fit a DVD drive in the top. I know, one of them, nobody really uses them anymore, but you can do. It has to be a slot drive. They're a little bit rarer than the ones with a little flap that comes out, but most people aren't going to be able to do that. So you can actually lock that front down to stop it moving around. Now to do that, what you have to do is you have to remove the top itself. And again, that's going to require a screwdriver. They haven't included thumb screws here. But if we just take the top off, and it simply comes off with those two screws there, a slide of the whole thing back, woo, just like that. And we can see that the top is actually a metal piece here. Now, when we actually slide this forward, we can see that there's a little hole there that actually lines up, which gives us a place to lock it down. And we could also lock it down by just tightening off these screws here. But if that doesn't work, you can always pop a little screw there. The top also gives us the place for an extra two 120mm fans, and that's actually a really cool feature with this case as well. So not only have they provided the case in a bit of a budget with lots of different features, which you generally don't get from micro ITX cases or mini ITX cases, they've also allowed you to fit things like 120mm fans, two on the top, two on the bottom, which is where that grill and that dust extractor was on the bottom, which are actually pretty cheap. So you don't have to go hunting around for some kind of special fan or anything like that. You can pick them up cheap as chips. And you've probably already got them in a system somewhere, or a box of them. We've got boxes of them everywhere to be able to do that with. Talking about airflow and fans, this case actually doesn't come with a lot in the front and back. It is provided with a 92mm fan in the back. It does have some ketchup and mustard wiring, which is a little bit annoying, and it is a 3-pin connection, but you could always just quickly replace that with some kind of Noctua or Be Quiet fan, which would be really cool. And in the front, they do provide you with a slot just in there, which actually fits an 80mm fan. Now, they have also included in the box a little piece of dust filtering that you can attach to that fan, but they don't provide the fan. You have to buy that as well. So you could actually fit, because an 80mm will fit in the back, you could probably fit two Noctua or Be Quiet or something like that 80mm fans, and it'll be perfectly fine. Or you just fully load the bottom up, you fully load the top up with 120s, and it'll be able to extract as much as you want. Now, we did say that this is an ITX case, so you only have enough space in here for an ITX motherboard. That means it only comes with 2 slots for your graphics card, so you can't fit any kind of 3-slotted graphics cards. And it does mean that the PSUs actually fit up the front here. Now, obviously, fitting the PSU at the front here, you'll be able to draw your cables through the back using that cable management space in the back and to the top. But it does mean that your power supply is going to be facing the wrong way. So they include an extra connection into the back, which is your standard 3-pin kettle plug, as they call them, into the back. It loops across the top, and you can actually plug it in just like that. Now, you have to be cautious when you actually do that, and there is a warning on the box. You need a specific power supply, so the end is actually the right way round. Now, I've actually fit multiple different ones in here, and it seems to fit no matter which ones I put in there, but we do want to put that warning out there because they put it on the box. There must be a reason for it. Now, the PSU will actually stick out quite a bit, which is where you're going to struggle to put that 240mm radiator on if it's in the way, but you could always fit an SFX power supply, which will actually drop it further back again, and you'll be able to get all that extra space there. Again, they do remind you of that in the spec sheets and particularly on the box. But that's actually, again, another pretty cool feature to this, because SFX power supplies are really expensive. And if you're trying to build a mini ITX system, you're probably going to end up paying nearly double the price for an SFX power supply than you are for a normal ATX one. So giving you the option to use an ATX power supply means that you can actually bring the cost of your complete build quite the way down, or you could actually make sure that you get a very good power supply in there, something of a good brand and a good rating, instead of having to drop that kind of expectation for something on the SFX. In terms of connections, they do include all the wiring in here. You get USB 3, you get HD audio, and you do get your standard front panels. And the connections themselves on the outside, or the I/O on the front, is actually on the side here. So we've got power switch. We don't have a reset switch. They haven't really included that, or at least I can't see one or find one. We have 2 USB 3s. We have a headphone socket and a microphone socket, and we have the standard activity LEDs for your hard drives and things. Now, I'm actually super impressed with the quality of this case, particularly when the price is under £50. I can't believe that they can actually make something like this for £50, considering all of the alternatives out there are generally double the price. And you don't get half the features. Now, I can understand when some of them are actually much smaller, because generally people want really tiny PCs when they have a mini ITX system. But when you're on a budget, you don't really have that many options, but you do have one now. And this is definitely something you should consider. Anyway, I digress. We can't wait to actually build into this, and I'm sure we're going to be doing it on the channel soon. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to be able to see that.